The final part of the program, I'm very pleased to have as our panelists two amazing individuals, both of whom I worked with at one point when I was a member of the Board of Regents for the Oklahoma Agricultural and Mechanical Colleges. So Mackenzie Wilfong, seated to my left, earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Oklahoma, where she graduated Phi Beta Kappa, and she received her JD or Juris Doctorate from Southern Methodist University School of Law. Brandee Hancock is the Chief Legal Officer at Oklahoma State University. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree from Oklahoma State, and then received her JD with honors at the University of Oklahoma College of Law. What are some of the best practices for communicating protections afforded to offensive yet protected speech?
Yeah, so the first thing you can do first and foremost is training. So today is key to it, but also making sure you're training your campus leaders both on the academic side and on the student side. And one of the keys to emphasize during that training, I find the most important piece is often not what can you do, but what can you not do. And so when you're an academic leader and a faculty member, as a hypothetical, and I'm assuming this has never happened on your campus, comes to you about a student's offensive social media post, and you say, report that to student conduct, we're going to suspend or expel them. Obviously, we can't do that. And when you set that as the tone moving forward, the only thing that faculty member is going to remember is what the institution didn't do. It doesn't matter what you do at that point. So helping have those conversations early and often and setting that tone at the forefront, letting individuals know the university is here to support you, but that support does not include disciplining that student, and making that distinction early and often is imperative.
Would you talk about some of the best practices for training student-facing professors, staff, and other employees so they're prepared for potential free speech issues? What are some of the things that...
Again, having periodic trainings, always key. Covering in those, though, talking points for your administrators who are on the front line. If a student comes to you and expresses concern about speech, what should you say? One of the things we hear a lot is, why did the university invite that crazy person out on the lawn yelling at people as they walk by? Well, obviously we didn't, but you need to help students understand that. They truly believe that the university invited that person. So help them understand what the First Amendment requires, what it allows. Let them know they're not a captive audience. It turns out, more often than not, if you don't engage with those speakers, they go away. They didn't get the audience they were looking for, and they may not come back the next day like they planned, or they may leave early that day. So let them know, walk on by, have a counter protest if you want to, go engage in a different activity. There are lots of options for students to do, but also let the students know that they have support. They might need counseling services. They might have some emotional reaction to something. Make sure you're that they know those services are available, and that your frontline administrators know what those services are and how to get students connected with those.
Professor Ty mentioned reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions for campus protests and demonstrations. What are some of those? What are some unreasonable time, place, and manner restrictions?
You know, time, place, and manner restrictions, we want to make sure there are viewpoint and content neutral limitations, and they're imposed by the government on expressive activity, like we already heard from. And that was fantastic. Thank you so much for such a wonderful lecture. They're in place to ensure that individuals exercising their right to free expression don't interfere with university functions or college functions. They don't imperil public safety or obstruct or damage university facilities. And even, and we'll get into this for a little bit, even Senate Bill 361 allows for this explicitly, as does case law from the First Amendment. But they've got to be clear, and they've got to be specific to the place, so the public is on notice as to what is exactly authorized. So let's give some examples about time restrictions. So as an example, a reasonable restriction of time is if you have outdoor activities or events and you're going to have, let's say, amplified music or speech, as we saw pictures of. You could it's viewpoint and content neutral to prohibit that during timeframes. So for example, many institutions, particularly residential institutions, may say on Sunday through Thursday from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., right, we're not going to have amplified music or amplified speech. And then perhaps you're going to get a little bit more leeway, right? But on Friday and Saturday, we're going to let that go back to like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that's a good example of a totally reasonable time restriction. Place and manner restrictions. So you cannot limit individuals, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, to what some have previously called free speech zones. But you can say that space needs to be generally accessible to the public in outdoor spaces. And that's always kind of been in the First Amendment case law, but we saw that recodified in Senate Bill 361. But like not all outdoor spaces are generally accessible to the public. So for example, you could have restrictions on parking lots or in parking garages or goodness gracious, roofs of buildings, right? We don't want people on the roof protesting. And then ponds are a kind of interesting issue. Right? Because, I don't know, Theta Pond might be a little bit different than the UCO pond. It's definitely different than the TCC pond, where we, at the Southeast campus, if you haven't seen it, it's quite hysterical with lots of geese. And we put up little signs that said, you know, this is not a public space, because we don't want to be protested in a pond, right? It's out there, it's green space, but it's not generally accessible space. And so we made that clarification as well. And you could also have those kind of prohibitions for signs, viewpoint and content neutral, right? To not have them on building surfaces or on windows or glass doors or benches or utility poles or sculptures, as was expressed before. You can have criteria that apply to all materials that you have posted on student bulletin boards. For example, it's content and viewpoint neutral, but size limitations. You want 8.5 by 11, you want 11 by 17. And then when we have our A-frames, well, A-frames are only a certain size, normally 24 by 34. So for all those student affairs professionals out there, right, you want the poster to match the size of the A-frame, whatever it says, right, being viewpoint and content neutral. So in generally speaking, we allow people in those outdoor green spaces, and they can distribute petitions and circulars and leaflets and newspapers and printed matters, and they can even put things in racks where they're supposed to, right? But you can't throw it all up in the air and litter. Right. We could tell people, you're gonna have to pick up your mess, right, before you go. But there are a lot of what we see as unreasonable and have been kind of litigated into the ground at this point. So I'm gonna give you 3 examples that are like per se unreasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. The first is provisions restricting expressive activity to what I call the back 40. Right? It is the gazebo that is so far away from anything that matters that nobody's ever gonna see you anyway. So historically speaking, people used to do that, right? Yeah, that is not a reasonable place restriction. Senate Bill 361 tells us it's not. First Amendment case law tells us it's not. Don't put them in the gazebo far away. Provisions requiring advance notice or even prior approval for outdoor expressive activities. You can't schedule outdoor expressive activities. Right? You can have time, place, and manner restrictions on those activities, but you cannot require someone to sign in before. Now, if they want to call and give you the heads up, as many people want to do, perhaps because of security concerns, that are the requirement of the institution to provide and to pay for. You can't put that on the backs of the student organization. You can't put it on the backs of the organization who's invited that speaker. So those are kind of 3 thoughts about time, place, and manner restrictions that are pretty unreasonable.
So you mentioned Senate Bill 361. What is that? What does it do? When did it become law?
Okay, so back in 2019, Oklahoma enacted Senate Bill 361. If y'all want to look it up in OSCN, it's codified at Title 70, Section 2120. And so I'm going to quote from it a little bit, and then I'm going to tell you the practical implications as we see them as working attorneys at our institutions. So any person who wishes to engage in non-commercial expressive activity on campus is permitted to do so freely as long as the person's conduct is not unlawful and does not materially and substantially disrupt the functioning of the public institution of higher education. So that's part of what Senate Bill 361 tells us. And the law also deems that generally accessible outdoor areas of the campus, right? So the green space that is generally accessible, right? iffy on the ponds, not the garages, not the roofs, et cetera, is subject to non-discriminatory time, place, and manner restrictions, and it prohibits the creation or the continuation of free speech zones, right, where expressive activities must be confined. So you can't have people in free speech zones where they are confined to that area. In Oklahoma, it's that general accessible outdoor green space. And it also mandates colleges and universities to publish a report that is provided to the state regents, the governor, and the legislature, describing if we see any barriers or incidents of disruption on our campuses to free expression. And that is by self-report, and we do that at the end of every calendar year, and then we send that on to state regents, to the governor and the legislature. The leadership in the legislature, both the House and the Senate, and then we also put it on our respective websites as well. And almost all of those reports are created within the president's office.
What are some unexpected types of policies that might contain free speech issues?
The list is pretty endless, honestly, and it's often surprising to clients. So things that can have free speech issues in them that you might not think about. Your faculty and staff handbooks, your student handbooks, any dress code policies, whether or not you allow signage at sporting events. If you're going to allow it, you have to allow all. So be careful what you open the door to. It can be things like chalking policies, signage displays on campus, social media policies, all kinds of things can potentially have First Amendment implications if you are a public institution.
Let's come up with an example. A club has invited a controversial speaker to campus, hard to believe that might ever happen, whose visits to college campuses elsewhere have allegedly led to incidents of violence when they've shown up. Students and outside groups claim the speaker incites hate speech and singles out individuals to verbally attack. Local police forces gather intelligence that some outside groups may even resort to violent protests on the day of the event. What should you do? Should you disinvite the speaker? Should you proceed as normal? I think we already touched a little bit on who pays for the cost of security. What do you do?
You should never disinvite the speaker. And of course, this is hypothetical because we've never seen this happen on any of our campuses. This is where preparation is key. So to answer your part about do you proceed as normal, that answer is a little bit yes and a little bit no. Yes, in the sense, hopefully your people are trained. No, in the sense it doesn't happen super often. But when it does happen, keys initially at the forefront. One, as Mackenzie covered, the institution is going to pay for the cost of security. Have your student affairs team reach out to the leader of the student group. Schedule meetings early to discuss logistics, to discuss safety. Is there a need for a uniformed police presence there? If yes, make sure you have the right officers there who have the right training. Don't just pick anybody who can come. If you have institutional police, you know who those individuals are. Have them available. Have stanchions at the ready so you can set them up to both disperse a crowd but also provide a safe means of entrance and exit for the speaker and attendees at the event. Know what the capacity of the event space is. You do have fire code limitations. That is a content neutral limitation, but that you have to enforce. So it has nothing to do with the content, but you need to be prepared for that. Talk to the students involved about what to expect and to understand when and how the institution is required to intervene and when it isn't, not only isn't required to, but can't in some circumstances. So for example, a heckler's veto, we would be required to intervene, and we'll talk about that more here in just a minute, so I won't go into that just yet. Help students who come to you and want to protest understand what that looks like. What can they do? What can they not do? A reasonable alternative for them, rather than come to the event, might be host a more attractive alternative event somewhere else. Students like fun things. Go host something that's really fun elsewhere. Another might be to stand in silence in the hallways. There are lots of ways that you can counter protest that. Additionally, I think messaging here is key. Make sure you bring in your communications team and have messaging ready to help. As I said earlier, oftentimes both internal and external constituents don't understand that the institution didn't necessarily invite the speaker and the institution doesn't necessarily condone what they're saying. Have messaging ready to go that explains that. This is a student group. We respect and value the First Amendment, and they are allowed to invite whomever they choose. That doesn't necessarily mean the institution condones the speech. And those are just a few examples of steps that you should have in place. And I would also recommend, because these don't happen super often, tabletop exercise those. Get your team together periodically and run through, what would we do if this happened? When you see an incident on another campus that gets you thinking about what would we do, that's probably a good time to get that team together and workshop it. What could that school have done differently, and what could we do better if it occurs on our campus?
When you approve outside groups who might want to speak or protest on campus, what are some of the best ways to ensure the approval process is content neutral?
No approval can be required for outside groups if they're using public spaces. And so when we look at non-public spaces, for example, performing arts centers, I think that this issue often comes up with performing arts centers. We got to make sure that our policies are clear and they require things like rent, security requirements, insurance requirements. If you don't have insurance requirements in your agreements, if you're performing arts center, you're missing an opportunity. Many entities and individuals are uninsurable at this point. So insurance requirements and being clear about calendar priorities. And I see this as a huge challenge, right? Because for many of our performing arts centers, we want them to be used perhaps for student organizations first, or in the alternative for academic departments first. And there is a descending order of priority whenever we calendar those events. And 9 times out of 10, when a person from the outside doesn't get their preferential day, they will feign, I didn't understand, right? The calendaring priority. And so it would behoove all of us that if you have those kind of priorities, make those really clear in your policies and on your website. So if those days aren't available, it isn't for some content or viewpoint issue. Rather, it is simply a calendar issue. And so making sure you clarify that on your calendar. And then also recognizing that you may have a little bit different rules for internal users of your performing arts center than external users. For example, you might waive the insurance requirement, right? You're not going to have internal departments get their own insurance, right? That's ridiculous. And so you wouldn't have insurance requirements. You might not have other requirements in those performing arts agreements. And so making sure that it is clear and there's a distinction if you have different rules for internal users versus external users as well.
So a student organization is pressuring campus leadership to cancel a controversial speaker. What do you do?
Tell them no and walk out. No, I kid. Tell them no, but politely, right? Have a conversation. Like, it's an educational opportunity to help those students understand what the university is obligated to do as a public institution. One of the themes that I've seen in recent complaints we've received, and I would say over about the last 6 months to a year, this has been a recurring theme, is they start with, I understand and respect the First Amendment, but. Well, do you? Because you're saying that, and yet you're complaining about someone else's speech. So having that discussion and letting them know your speech is equally valued, and what can we do to help you have a different speaker, invite someone else that you might like, schedule the alternative event that we talked about. Also making sure that you're offering resources, again, to those students. Resources are imperative. And be prepared with messaging. It's something I harp on, and I do that just because I've seen the value of having some of those canned statements ready to go. Don't send the same one every single time, by any means. You have to cater it to the situation. But if you have them largely ready, then you're not reinventing the wheel, and you can loop the right people in to help set the tone for those conversations.
What are some ways that an institution can respond to views the institution itself doesn't condone, but are nonetheless protected by the First Amendment or just general principles of free speech?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. I always say at the top of the list of jobs that I don't want is a university president. I get some people think that would be a great job. I am not one of them. That is such a tricky question because the institution itself has First Amendment rights, which is something that a lot of people don't realize. The institution can make statements and it can do those things. But the bigger questions become when should it, how should it, and who makes those statements? And because that rubric is so complicated, do you need to loop in your regents? Does it come from the president? Does it come from your vice president of student affairs? Does it come from communications? All of those differing pieces complicate that analysis. And the other piece that complicates it is when you make a statement about one thing, are you setting the table that the next time a group comes to you and asks you to make a statement, you can't say I don't do that because you did. Then what? And what does that look like? So when you're picking and choosing, that gets really, really complicated for a public institution that is supposed to be politically neutral. I would also add that if you do issue that statement, it should be thoroughly vetted. It should talk about the First Amendment, and generally speaking, what it's likely going to say is, while we respect and appreciate the First Amendment and that student's speech is allowed, we condone the contents of that message. And you do see those statements periodically coming from institutions.
So let's suppose an outside group has set up an information table inside the student union and is advocating for viewpoints that some students find to be deeply offensive. Students gather in the hallway to stage a counter-protest, hand out printed materials. They're encouraging others to avoid the outside group and playing loud music. What could students organizing the counter-protest in this situation perhaps have done better?
So administrators should be prepared to intervene if students block the flow of pedestrians in the hallway or block the entrances and exits. And you also have to deal with the noise level and whether or not it disrupts the normal course of business. And that's clearly going to be an issue whenever you have counter discussions that are inside, like in a student union, as opposed to outside the student union. Really, absent any of the above, the individuals will be largely within their First Amendment rights.
What is a heckler's veto? What are examples of alternative speech that can occur during, let's say, a campus speaking engagement that does not rise to the level of a heckler's veto?
So clearly, views and beliefs of speakers are going to conflict with members of our campus community. And so the Supreme Court first recognized the term the heckler's veto in a case, Brown versus Louisiana, back in 1966, when it cited the University of Chicago faculty Harry Calvin Jr. So the heckler's veto occurs when an individual or group disrupts or restricts speech through excessive noise or even violence, often so there's a ton of strategies, including shout downs, barring entrances, throwing chairs. And this isn't just criticism of the speaker, but it's substantial disruption that prevents a speaker from being heard. And the heckler's veto really, at its heart, it insists that the loudest voice should prevail, which in most ways is antithetical to reasoned argument and civil dialogue. And so we can write policies all we want. In the end, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. I think that we need to help foster a campus culture so that students embrace hearing the widest range of views, even those that they find objectionable. And we can help our students foster their own sense of agency when students encounter speech that they object to, from understanding that they can walk away, to critically engaging appropriately in the question and answer section by asking the hard questions, and also hosting counter events or attending the event and knowing how to engage with the speaker and show countermeasures without engaging with the heckler's veto. So for example, standing in the back area and turning your backs on the speaker, right? Recognizing that you can wear t-shirts that have certain materials on them. Holding up posters that are non-disruptive to the speaker at the entrances that don't block anything. And also having other engaging opportunities on that same day and same time somewhere else on campus. And so actively teaching students how to have these counter events that are productive and academically engaging, and also allowing for that widest range of viewpoints and hopefully teaching them to embrace hearing that.
Sometimes faculty have concerns about academic freedom. How do you help alleviate some of those concerns?
Never heard any such concern. First, recognize that you can't at the end of the day. I think faculty are truly always going to have concerns about academic freedom. It's the nature of a public institution. That said, and I joke about that, truly, again, training, we harp on it, I know that. But having those conversations and helping them understand what is and isn't actually covered by academic freedom is important. Faculty seem to think it's a license to say anything and everything they want in front of the classroom. That's not what it means. So understanding that it means material germane to the topic is important to help them understand. Also walk them through your process. What happens when you get a complaint about that? And usually it's going to look like education with the reporting person to say, I'm sorry you were offended by that, but that's sort of the purpose of going to a university, is you are going to be offended. And that was within the faculty members' academic freedom. That is 99% of the time what they look like, and helping faculty to understand that.
One more thing to add. I think it's particularly imperative in our community colleges, where many of our community colleges, our faculty are non-tenured. And I think that the addition of that critical issue of having non-tenured faculty, it's even more important imperative for us to reach out to our faculty who, as a whole in community colleges, are non-tenured, to say, we believe in academic freedom. Here it is in the faculty handbook. Here it is in our processes. To the extent that we adopt the AAUP statement on academic freedom, that's important as well, because that extra protection that we see at our regional university system and our research institutions is interestingly just not there, right, for our community colleges. And that's not just in Oklahoma, that's across the US. And so I think it's really imperative for us to have those good conversations with our faculty associations or our faculty senate when we are in colleges that also where our faculty lack tenure. That's a unique thing, I think, that sometimes is obfuscated by many other complexities in the community college system.
Are there good ways to to discourage offensive speech or conduct without chilling protected speech or without disciplining?
This is truly one of the trickiest issues in the First Amendment, in my opinion. Yes, there are, but you have to be very, very cautious. I, am an advocate. Anytime you receive a complaint about someone's speech, especially if it's one of your employees, I'm an advocate for letting that person know. Not for the purpose of telling them they can't do it anymore, and you have to be explicitly clear about that, but let them know that someone was paying enough attention to their speech and was concerned enough by it to report it. So yes, you can have educational discussions if they're voluntary in nature. So if a report is made about a student's speech, you can ask that student who made the speech if they would like to talk. You can also offer resources to both that student and the person who reported it. Most of the time, that's going to be a conversation with the student who reported it and saying, understand your concerns, respect your concerns, value your input, but that is protected speech and it's not something that we can discipline. So it's educational in nature. We do, as institutions of higher education, have an obligation to prepare students for a diverse world, and that is part of that. But you have to be very, very careful to toe the line between educational and punitive.
Would you please join me in thanking them for their